To the students, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends of the University of Connecticut, welcome, and to the class of 2021, congratulations. It is my great pleasure to address you via live stream today. I hope you can hear me because we're not sure the microphone. Okay, we're going to give it just a moment. There's the microphone. Okay. Students, staff, alumni, and friends, welcome, class of 2021. Congratulations. With that little hiccup under our belt, it's now my great pleasure to address you via live stream today from Rensselaer Field during a weekend when we have also resumed in-person commencement ceremonies. While social distancing protocols require us to organize multiple in-person ceremonies, this virtual ceremony is a special opportunity for us to all gather together at the same time and to hear a commencement address from a nationally prominent figure. We are so fortunate to have with us the United States Secretary of Education, who also happens to be a UConn Husky. We will also hear from Senator Richard Blumenthal, Chairman of the Board of Trustees Daniel Toscano, and best of all, some truly outstanding students. I'd like to recognize the platform party here today, Trustee Justin Fang and Marshals Letty Nagels and Lucy Gilson. Thank you. And before we go any further, I want to take a moment to express appreciation for the parents, grandparents, siblings, and supporters of our students. Many of your students needed you more than ever, and in some cases, saw you more than ever over the course of the last 12 months. And because of what you and they have overcome to get to this milestone moment in their lives, your sense of pride should be even greater. You have been there for them, and now you have the opportunity to experience what is perhaps the greatest reward for any parent and caregiver, and that is to see them reach their fullest potential, empowered and ready to pursue their passions in life and to flourish as human beings. The congratulations I offer to them, I also offer to you. For the members of the class of 2021, it is my hope that your entire time at UConn, and not just the past year, has convinced you that you have an important role to play in serving and improving our state, our nation, and our world. When you have the ability to make a difference in the world, you also have the obligation to do so. The skills, knowledge, and abilities you developed as students are not meant to be hidden away, but shared proudly with a society that craves them. Fortunately, I know that you understand this. This class has an abundance of members who, even while they were still students, already began the hard work of making their world a better place. I'm thinking of students like Dana Chamberlain, who participated in undergraduate student government and campus activism while conducting community research as a McNair Scholar. Daniel Crovo, whose bond with his younger brother inspired him to pursue a degree in special education while simultaneously running sports programs for people with disabilities. Erica Tenga, who came to UConn with a degree in psychiatric nursing, studied pathobiology, and plans to work in both disciplines here in the US and his native Ghana. Kelly Finn, who arrived at UConn as a first-generation college student and is leaving UConn with degrees in finance, applied and resource economics, and French. Natalie Roach, an activist whose passion for climate justice helped propel the climate strike in 2010 and who served on the President's Working Group on Sustainability and the Environment. Mallory Thompson, who a few days after receiving her law degree will begin a clerkship with the Chief Justice of Connecticut Supreme Court. Zachary Duda, Allison Schneider, and Jonathan Russo, who together made the documentary film Completely Connecticut Agriculture, to explore ways in which farmers in our state are innovating efforts to secure a sustainable food supply. Vinayak Mishra and Mukund Deshibatla, who responded to the need to lead while virtual by launching a podcast devoted to exploring changemakers and then organized an entire conference on podcasting. I want to take a minute to share a little bit more about Mukund's story. In early 2020, Mukund began a semester abroad experience in Spain with high hopes of pursuing his combined interests in Spanish and biology. But his trip was cut short by COVID in March of 2020. He was recalled to the US like all of our students. Unfortunately, however, not before he woke up in a hospital with a caregiver leaning over him and saying, "Boy, your lungs have taken a lot of hits." That experience further shaped his life direction, leading him to apply to medical school and write, and I quote, "From the moment I was bedridden with COVID-19, I was motivated to help others who faced a similar battle," unquote. Mukund's story captures what so many of you have told me. This past year of COVID sucked, and I'm quoting now, not my words, and yet it was filled with silver linings. Like Mukund, many of you have shared that you would not be the same person but for the experiences of the last year. And what has really left an impression on me was that you would not want to go back to being the person you were before. These experiences, both good and bad, have shaped who you are, made you stronger, made you better. Your student experiences were in some ways unique to your class, yet in other ways, the stories of the students I listed have more in common with the classes that came before you than differences. You have chosen challenging courses, participated in student activities, pursued internships and jobs, and also found time to enjoy the intangible aspects of university life, like a late-night talk with friends or a sunrise on Horsebarn Hill, sometimes maybe both. In this, you are following in the footsteps of UConn Huskies who have gone before you for 140 years. We are fortunate today to be joined by distinguished guests who understand how those formative experiences lay the foundation for a life of meaning and purpose. Our next speaker has demonstrated a lifetime commitment to public service. He is well known as a friend of UConn, but even more importantly, as a friend to the people of Connecticut. It is my privilege to welcome U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you to you and your extraordinary leadership team at UConn for making this university one of the very best in the whole country, and to all who say too many federal dollars are devoted to higher education, I say come to the University of Connecticut to see a great and growing institution and listen to the stories. And there are so many more that you have just heard. I'm so deeply honored and excited and proud to be here and to say to all of the graduates, congratulations. You are students today, but you will always be Huskies and always proud of the great education that you have received here. A special thank you also to the parents, loved ones, friends who have been at your side, to the wonderful faculty and staff of the University of Connecticut in all of its schools who are so accomplished and so giving, so truly caring about their students. And a thanks as well to the veterans who have served and sacrificed. Many of you have fought abroad, of all generations who are in the audience as well as the graduating classes. You have made possible our freedoms that enable us to celebrate today and to guarantee the future of these graduates. This year has been, as the President has said, a year of extraordinary challenge, hardship and heartbreak, pain and loss, challenges that have really tested you and have shown in all that you have done that you have the intellectual but also emotional fortitude to lead this nation. And I have been so proud to stand with you at the rallies and marches, the Zoom calls, calling for racial justice, for voting rights, for civil liberties. You have already shown your leadership qualities. And despite all of the challenges you have faced, you have worked and cared for others, stood up and spoken out against hate, worked against discrimination, and demonstrated that you care and you will lead this great nation. You will also help provide the cures against pandemics of the future and help prevent them. You will teach the students who will in turn become leaders. And you will provide the role models for those leaders, as you have demonstrated already. Every generation makes a pact with the next one. We've shown that in our country. And the pact is that each of our generations will leave the nation better than we found it. I know you will keep your part of that pact. And you will also take from this very challenging experience of the past year one of the key lessons in life. You have to be strong and brave to help others. But you also have to be strong and brave to know when you need help and accept it. You have helped each other over this past year and in the past years of your preparation for this great day. And I'm very proud of the work that you've done, the work that you will do in helping this nation fulfill its promise. I'm proud to be with you today and to share this wonderful, exciting, and happy moment with you. Congratulations, Godspeed, and good luck. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Senator Blumenthal, for your wisdom. We are honored to have you join us today. One of the familiar features of commencement ceremonies is the admonition that you can achieve great things with what you have learned here. Well, today we have living proof of that adage. Born and raised in Meriden, a product of public schools from kindergarten to his doctoral degree, he is someone whose life has been animated by a desire to teach, to learn, and to serve. Receiving his master's degree and doctorate from the NEAG School of Education, he also taught classes here before going on to serve as the Connecticut Secretary of Education. His outstanding success in that role brought him national attention, and earlier this year, he became the U.S. Secretary of Education in the cabinet of President Biden, proving by example, again, what we already knew. There is no limit to what you can do or where you can go with a UConn education. It's truly an honor to have him join this ceremony. Please join me in welcoming U.S. Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona.
Thank you, Dr. Katsileas, for that very kind introduction and for all you do for this amazing institution. Both here and throughout your remarkable career, you've brought a visionary approach to an ever-changing educational landscape. I've gotten a chance to get to know you these past few years and appreciate all you do and who you are. As we reimagine the possibilities beyond the pandemic, we need student-centered and innovative leaders like you. It's a real honor to be with you and everyone assembled virtually today as we celebrate this important occasion. I'm especially honored to have a small part of your special day graduates of the University of Connecticut class of 2021. Congratulations to all of you. I have nothing but fond memories of my time here at UConn. I was fortunate to get 4 different credentials and degrees here. UConn gave me the skills I needed to take on new challenges. But equally as important, the confidence to follow through. I met some of the best people and most influential people in my life here, some of whom I continue to consult with today in my current role as the nation's head of education policy. Just last night, I met with 2 people I met at UConn to discuss the distribution of the $170 billion education portion of the American Rescue Plan. If it weren't for UConn, I can say for certain that I wouldn't be Secretary of Education. So thank you, Husky Nation. I couldn't have done it without you. Of course, like you, my best memories at UConn are more personal in nature. I remember when I received my doctorate, it was a huge milestone for my family and me. And by family, I mean those who came before me and sacrificed so much more than I did so that I could cross that stage. So picture this. In 2012, my uncle drove school buses. So I gathered about 20 to 30 family members, and I was driven to my doctoral graduation in a big yellow school bus full of Puerto Ricans celebrating and singing. We had a really loud speaker in it, and it became a party bus. To this day, colleagues I graduated with still say, dude, you brought a school bus to graduation at UConn. Instead of the Partridge family playing folk music, it was the Cardona family playing salsa. But I wouldn't have it any other way. And I couldn't be more proud. My family means everything to me. As you all know, walking the stage is a family accomplishment. We didn't do it alone, especially this past year. So a special shout out to the family members in attendance and those who couldn't be in attendance but supported you along the way. Today wouldn't be possible without you. There might have been a time in my life where I wouldn't have ridden to my graduation in a school bus full of family because it was not the norm. I may have been a little scared to express myself in the way I would want to because it's not conventional. What I want to say to the graduates, especially now, after what we've gone through as a country, is embrace your uniqueness and consider it your superpower. For me, embracing what sets me apart allowed me to find my purpose. Whether I'm a classroom teacher or the Secretary of Education, I'm just living out my life's purpose to serve children. Sometimes, your uniqueness will be viewed as a deficit. Some will try to make you believe that what sets you apart sets you back. I'm here to remind you that your so-called deficits are in fact your superpowers. For me, being born in a housing project, moving 7 times before the age of 13, living simply without a lot of financial resources, learning Spanish before English, and having strong connection to my Boricua roots have served me well and allowed me to be prepared for this role. If I didn't have that experience, I may not have the level of urgency or experience to ensure the successful distribution of $170 billion in the American Rescue Plan, which is aimed at unapologetically addressing the opportunity gaps that exist in this country. What some viewed as a deficit, I call my superpower. So whether you have ADHD, are differently abled, moved to this country later in life, speak with an accent, grew up in poverty, or are LGBTQ, embrace your uniqueness and use it to find your purpose. And when you find that purpose, make the pursuit of your purpose greater than the pursuit of your position. Again, make the pursuit of your purpose greater than the pursuit of your position. During your time here, you've balanced academic rigor, work, internships, volunteering, cultural activities, and more. But in the spring of 2020, everything changed. Everything we took for granted suddenly became difficult or impossible. Visiting family and friends, sitting down to a meal at a restaurant, meeting someone for the first time and shaking their hand, or having a cold drink at Husky's or Ted's, soda that is. And here at UConn, that meant that labs went dark, dining halls were silent, classrooms were empty, athletic seasons were canceled. I know some of you even arrived at an internship or at a job to find signs taped to the door saying closed until further notice. That's not to diminish the incredibly hard work university staff were putting behind the scenes to make sure that the ever-evolving needs of the student body are met. It's just the suddenness of it that was so shocking and scary. But setbacks are just preparation for setups. Of course, setbacks won't always take the form of a global pandemic, but they do await each and every one of us. So how did you respond in the spring of 2020? What did those challenges teach you about who you are and what you can accomplish? You improvised. You adapted. You rolled with the punches. Your classes moved online, and you moved with them. All of that's impressive, but that was only the beginning. You stepped up to help Connecticut fight the pandemic and its effect on our society. Students from the School of Pharmacy became contact tracers and learned to administer vaccines. UConn students joined a state program to make regular contact with patients who have survived severe cases of COVID-19 to monitor their recovery. Students in the UConn Extension Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program distributed thousands of gallons of milk and dairy product to food pantries around the state from Connecticut farmers who had lost one of their most important markets when the schools closed. 2 engineering students and a recent graduate joined together to form the Ventilator Project to design emergency ventilators that could be rapidly brought to market. Kelly Ha, who is receiving her master's degree in social work this week, became the campaign manager for the #IamNotAVirus campaign, bringing needed national attention to the blight of anti-Asian hatred that sprang up in the wake of the pandemic. Thank you, Kelly. Every single part of the university was affected, from Stamford to Waterbury to Avery Point to Hartford. But no group was affected more than UConn Health, which was on the front line of Connecticut's response to the pandemic. The medical and dental students who are receiving their degrees this week were a crucial part of that response. And this experience will go on to shape their careers and their lives as healers. This experience that binds us together will no doubt impact our purpose and our passion for the rest of our years. As I've said when visiting schools across the country these last 2 months, for educators, the pandemic will serve to sharpen our swords for the real fight ahead. The fight to address inequities in education. That's the real fight. The inequities that were made worse during these last 12 months. Leading through the pandemic, the setback was the setup for a reimagined education system built on equity and access. I am optimistic that our best days are ahead of us. If you look carefully, you might already notice signs of recovery. Yes, the flowers are blooming. People are reconnecting with their loved ones after months of separation. Students are back on campus. Labs are operating again. Our amazing Husky athletic programs are playing again. And probably the best sign of recovery possible, the dairy bar is open. And there's no better way to measure UConn's mood than whether you can go pick up a scoop or 2 or 3 of Husky tracks. The end is in sight. Let me rephrase that. The beginning is in sight. The beginning of a new day for education, one where we value social, emotional well-being of students as much as academic aptitude, where we unapologetically challenge what Dr. Noguera called the normalization of failure. This is the beginning of a new era of unity in this nation, with us gaining value, not enemies, by engaging with diverse perspectives, where we recognize that our uniqueness is our superpower. This is the beginning of your journey to find or refine your purpose. Whether you choose to be in the arts or in education, like my godson Hector Cardona III, or as we call him, Trey, who is graduating from the NEAG School of Education this week, or you choose engineering, medicine, law, or even epidemiology, know that you are stronger because of your experience at UConn. So go out and serve. Make the world better. Make sure that in your pursuit for purpose, you help others. Always remember, it is better to be known for testimonies about you than for any titles before or after your name. The top song on the Billboard music charts today is Save Your Tears by The Weeknd and Ariana Grande. In it, they tell the person to save their tears for another day. After this past year, we struggled together, we cried together, and we experienced loss together. But graduates, today's a new day. Save your sad tears for another day. Today is a special day. Today, let your tears mark the joy you feel the sense of accomplishment, the end of one journey and the beginning of another. Save your tears to express the passion you have for your purpose in life. And like I have so many times in my lifetime, save your tears to mark the pride you feel in knowing that today you will be a graduate of the University of Connecticut. Congratulations again to UConn's class of 2021.
That was awesome. Thank you, Secretary Cardona, for your wisdom, optimism, and humor. Your words inspire us, and your example fills us with pride as Huskies. Earlier in my remarks, I named some members of the class of 2021 who have demonstrated the values and virtues of a UConn education. But even better than that is the opportunity to hear from the students themselves. Our next speaker is a student whose experience is an excellent example of how our students combine rigorous academic work with a commitment to service. As a Rose Scholar and a STEM Scholar, she has pursued excellence in the classroom and the lab. And as a member of Huskies for Haiti, she has participated in fundraisers, organized events, traveled to Haiti to work alongside doctors, nurses, and healthcare staff in distributing medication and supplies that UConn students purchased themselves. She exemplifies the best of what it means to be a UConn Husky. Please join me in welcoming Shahariah Fertis. Shahariah.
Thank you, President Katsaleas, for the introduction, and thank you all for having me. I'm honored to be speaking alongside so many distinguished individuals, including Dr. Cardona himself. Now, speaking of Dr. Cardona, I'm reminded of 4 years ago when I was a student representative for my high school at the Meriden Board of Education. Flashback with me to a Board of Education meeting towards the end of the school year. At that time, I was a graduating senior, so the board members had asked me about my future plans. I remember telling everyone, Dr. Cardona included, that I had big plans. I was going to UConn to major in cell biology, human rights, and/or Spanish, and that afterwards, I would go straight to medical school to become a doctor. Perhaps it was the absurdity of having to decide at 17 years of age what I would do for the rest of my life, or perhaps it was my own naivety. But in that moment, I had never been more sure of what I wanted. You see, I'm no film studies major. But even before I was officially enrolled at the university, I already had a script fleshing out the next 15 years of my life, with storyboards illustrating the first 4 years encompassing my undergraduate degree. While this may seem over the top to others, as an honor student, I was used to getting the results I wanted, and that meant having a storyboard in place. All I needed to do was stick to the script, and everything would go according to plan, right? Plot twist. It turns out that in the real world, nothing is ever 100% scripted, except the speech, of course. As time went on, I found myself veering off script more and more often, and after 4 years of performing improv, I came to 3 realizations. The first is that no author creates his or her story alone or in a vacuum. As novice writers, we may forget this and envision an entirely self-produced masterpiece. But every writer carries with them not only their own visions, but also the expectations of others. Try as we might to avoid letting these other co-authors edit our scripts, it can be difficult to resist. Sometimes, we may even be typecast into playing roles we do not want to play. It is important to remember, though, that we are the sole directors of our screenplays. We have the final say in how we choose to define our roles. You can also go off script through no fault of your own. The COVID-19 pandemic has taught us all that valuable lesson, that being prepared does not mean that everything will go according to plan. Sometimes, Structural, environmental, and other life factors force us to make changes to our scripts last minute. All we can do then is go with the flow, be resilient and adaptable. The second thing I learned is to be original. As novice writers, it's natural to want to imitate the success of others. Imitation quickly becomes cliché when we fail to portray the same passion, or when we realize that our talents and abilities differ. While it is okay to seek support from our peers, it's also important to have faith in our own strengths and abilities. After all, who can tell our stories better than we can? Finally, the third thing I learned is to expect and accept character development. Writers often seek inspiration from their own experiences, but who can predict the experiences they will have in the future or how those experiences might change them? I certainly didn't expect that I would attempt to switch my major so many times, or that I would be stranded in Miami on my way to Haiti, or that I wouldn't be going to medical school right after graduation. What I do know is that I would not be the person I am today without all of these experiences and the choices I have made for my own growth and development. So, how did we get here? To get to today, we must travel back in time once more. 4 years ago, I stood behind a podium in cap and gown and delivered a speech to a crowd. Flash forward to present day, not much appears to have changed, minus the crowd. But in these past 4 years, I have played multiple characters: the student worker, the club leader, the researcher, and my favorite, the sleep-deprived honors kid who put way too much on her plate at once, and yet somehow managed to succeed anyway. I've adapted my screenplay multiple times over the course of my undergraduate study, and still my goals remain: to become a life scientist and to better the world, one patient at a time. I also know that it's not just me experiencing these changes. Everyone encounters failures from time to time. Everyone has characters they need to develop. Every individual seeks to be original while juggling multiple roles, and everybody desires to be a part of a community. Lastly, everyone experiences changes that are beyond their control, whether it's a pandemic or another life event. One thing is certain, however: there will be times when our scripts are changed when we least expect it, and we may find ourselves unsure of whether to stick to it or live in the moment. Or perhaps we will choose the third option and do both simultaneously. Perhaps we can create a script that guides us in achieving our dreams, and we can follow it while still being present. Like our identities, our scripts can evolve and transform with us. It is being able to balance following a script and performing improv that is a classic trope in many a success story. It's up to us to author our own versions of these stories. Yet no matter how they play out, every single one of our stories will have one thing in common: that we all made it thanks to UConn. Long after the credits have rolled and the pages have turned on our UConn story, we remain Huskies, and will stay Huskies forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Shahariah. And whether scripted or ad lib, your message is spot on. Our next student speaker is a third-generation dentist who came to the UConn School of Dental Medicine to follow in the footsteps of her father and grandfather. But after arriving and seeing how the school serves as a safety net clinic for the Hartford area, she added public health to her studies. Seeing health as a holistic problem that incorporates social justice, her goal is to bring that insight to her work as a healer. It is my pleasure to introduce Katie Merrick.
Thank you, President, for that kind introduction. This year, Dolly Parton released an updated version of her classic anthem 9 to 5 called 5 to 9. The millennialized new chorus proclaims, quote, "Workin' 5 to 9, you've got passion and a vision, 'cause it's hustlin' time, a whole new way to make a livin'. Gonna change your life, do something that gives it meaning," end quote. Most of us graduating today are millennials, a generation searching for drive, meaning, and passion in our professional lives. We understand the social responsibility that comes with being a dentist, a social worker, or an engineer that extends beyond a 9 to 5 workday. We came into our professions in a time of multiple crises: the COVID-19 pandemic, reckoning with racial injustice, and mental health and substance use. Perhaps nothing has highlighted this in our training as much as COVID. During the closure of the student dental clinics, my classmates reiterated concerns for our patients who needed care. We were still student providers, but during the COVID shutdown, we saw ourselves as more provider than student. Though social justice has long been a tenet of public health, terms like health inequities and social determinants of health have found their way into our vernacular this year. I'm proud that my coursework at UConn has asserted that health and healthcare are inherently political and that health professionals should profess well-informed and evidence-based political opinions. Violence and tragedy through specific racist acts and enabled by systemic racism have pushed our class to develop into anti-racist pharmacists, lawyers, and physical therapists. We, and especially myself and my white peers, must use our platforms as researchers, business people, and educators to dismantle white supremacy in our country, our professions, our communities, and ourselves. I think a lot about statements versus actions. When are words purely performative, and when do they have meaning? After we graduate today, we will be community leaders in our fields, and our words will have power. Our class has intimate knowledge of the mental health and substance use crises in our country. For us, these areas will never be purely academic. I lost one of my best friends from high school unexpectedly a year ago. He was a star runner and charismatic goofball. I miss him dearly. Tomorrow, I will wake up Dr. Merrick and, once licensed, have the power to prescribe medicine that can both relieve pain as well as facilitate addiction. This is not something that I will take for granted. Developing our professional identities during this time has forged a connection to the power and privilege that our roles hold. We understand humility, sacrifice, and loss more acutely than I expected to at this point in my career and in my life. I like to think that we are now more reflective, more collaborative, and more flexible, as well as quicker to find humor and joy. I'm proud of us, class of 2021, for the professionals that we have become. Thank you. Go Huskies!
Thank you, soon-to-be Dr. Merrick. Your speech was passionate, personal, and powerful. We really appreciate it. Well, now it's time for the main event, the conferral of degrees. For this, it's my honor to welcome the chairman of the UConn Board of Trustees, Mr. Daniel Toscano.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are. Tom, last year you made me speak after Gino, which was not good for me. This year you make me speak after these phenomenal students. So once again, I can't do justice to the conversation here, but thank you for having me. I would like to add my welcome to everyone today to our virtual celebration. I hope this day finds you and the important people in your life safe and in good health. I can't say this is an unprecedented commencement as we were fully virtual last year, but it is still unusual to confer degrees to an empty room. On behalf of the entire Board of Trustees, I would like to thank you, Tom, and your leadership team and everyone who developed and executed the plans to keep our campuses open. With no advance warning or playbook to work from, with constantly changing conditions, sometimes conflicting guidance from public health and education experts, you and your team navigated one of the most profound years in UConn's 2 centuries of existence. As chairman of our board, but also as a parent of a class of 21 graduate, congratulations, Jeremy, and also as an alum, I would like to thank you for your leadership. Now that we have a playbook that you and your team built from scratch, this is one that I hope only gathers dust on a shelf somewhere, and hopefully we never have to look at it again. I'd also like to offer special recognition to all the moms out there. One good thing about a virtual commencement is that it doesn't interfere with Mother's Day, as our in-person ceremonies often do. So to all the moms out there, happy Mother's Day. To all the graduates who are with their mothers or a mother figure in their life this afternoon, please use this milestone moment to express your love and appreciation for all she's done for you. There's an old saying that with experience comes wisdom. If that is to be believed, then you all added an enormous amount of wisdom this past year. What you learned in your academic pursuits was rivaled by the exposure to how unpredictable life can be, and to how valuable versatility and resilience can be. It might not feel like it in the present, but surviving this crisis the way you all did makes you stronger and better prepared for the unpredictable world that we all live in. By the way, if you don't feel fully prepared for what comes next, you're in fine company. Welcome to the club that we all belong to. You aren't fully prepared, you can't be, but you have built the foundation to survive and to thrive. To devise a playbook, then know when to throw it out, to call the audible, to figure it out. There's a time to think, and there is a time to act. I really like the storyboard reference. Mine would probably be a sitcom, but nonetheless, you all have the skills to do both. It was Nelson Mandela who said, "Do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again." I only have one very simple piece of advice. Nobody wants to hear advice at a commencement address, but I just have one. Very simple as you move on in your life. Just be yourself. Know who you are. Don't waste time trying to be something you aren't or don't really want to be. Life is too short. The foundation has to be real, and it has to bring you joy and satisfaction. You have the tools you need. Now go build the rest of the house. That's it for advice. Before I confer upon you your impressive degrees, I would first like to deliver your lifetime membership to UConn Nation. This membership comes without additional cost until you see the joy of giving back to the worthy students who will follow you, and without condition. You can use it anytime and in many different ways. All I'd like you to do is help maintain it and maybe try to leave it better than you found it. It can help you in so many ways throughout your life. It will bring joy, and it will embrace you. For many, your time as a student may be drawing to a close today, but you are a Husky for life. Our beautiful campuses will always be home to you. I imagine most universities say this, but I want to use my own experience to implore you to stay connected to UConn. The opportunities to engage with young people and alums alike, the opportunities to give back, the opportunity to be a part of the great advancements taking place across our campuses, the opportunity to get to know and to root for our student athletes in their quest for success. There is nowhere else that you can find the satisfaction, the fulfillment, and the joy that accompanies maintaining an active, lifelong relationship with UConn, and I speak from experience on this subject. Make sure the whole world knows you are UConn and that you bleed blue. Believe me, all the Ivy Leaguers who work for me get a daily reminder every time they step into my office. I would also like to award each of you with my own personal, unofficial certificate in public health and crisis management. You were great partners to the leadership team, the faculty and staff in keeping our campuses open and learning continuing. Thank you for your efforts and for the sacrifices that you made to get through this past year. I bet you learned a lot more about antigen tests and mRNA vaccines than you really planned. With all that said, now for the official part that I actually am allowed to do. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Governor of the State of Connecticut, and in accordance with the procedures and regulations of the University of Connecticut, I confer upon you the associate's degree, the appropriate bachelor's degree, master's degree, sixth-year diploma, or degree of doctor, which you have completed requirements for during this 142nd commencement of the University of Connecticut. Congratulations to the class of 2021. Wherever you are, throw your cap.
Once more as we gather today to sing our alma mater's praise.
Huskies, it's time to turn your tassel from right to left. Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Congratulations!
Congratulations, you are now UConn alumni.
Cheering them to victory, we pledge anew to old Connecticut, our steadfast spirit of loyalty. Connecticut, Connecticut, thy sons and daughters true, unite to honor thy name, our fairest white and blue.
Thank you, Chairman Toscano, and for everyone out there, that comment about certificates in crisis management, that was just informal. Don't call the registrar looking for it on your transcript, but I agree that you've earned it in principle. I'd like to thank Chairman Toscano, Secretary Cardona, Senator Blumenthal, Shahariah, Katie, our marshals, and everyone else who helped make this virtual commencement possible. As we conclude, I want to one last time reflect on what has become the theme of this graduation, which is resilience. What we know from research is resilience in the face of adversity builds strength, character, and confidence. From the London Blitz in World War II to the Great Depression, traumatic events that seemed likely to shatter societies instead produced citizens who were more empathetic, more willing to sacrifice, and more sure of their responsibility to improve their world. I believe you are and will be the most resilient class UConn has ever graduated. You are now ready to write the next chapter in your lives and to write it in bold blue and white letters. And now, it's my great pleasure and honor to present the University of Connecticut Class of 2021. Congratulations, graduates, and as always, go Huskies.